know about them, and wow, that is just not the truth. Um, I attended a great training by title company and was kind of shocked by how much maybe I think we didn't know, and how much maybe we knew the wrong thing, which is always a little scary when we think we know and we don't know. I hate that spot. So I am here to share what all I learned about surveys and what all we need to know. The reason this interested me enough to go to some continuing ed about it is because this is a part of, on the national level, so sitting on the National Board of Directors for NAR, I know that photographers are suing, right? They don't want you to use their pictures without their permission. I've even heard of architects now starting to sue about floor plans. Well, guess who else? And that would be surveyors. They're beginning to say, hey, wait just a minute. I should get paid every time that my survey is used. Now, we're not there yet. It hasn't become a thing, but it's interesting to me that it's become a topic of conversation. I, as a broker, have never been a fan of reusing a survey anyway, and I'm going to be able to tell you why. But that just brought it to mind. So that's why I took the course and why I think it's so important that we take just a minute to learn all about surveys. So that's what we're going to talk about. So first off, just knowing what it is. So a survey is a survey plat. It's a drawing of a specific property showing the boundaries, the dimensions, the corners, the easements, the building lines, the improvements. And yes, surveyors in Texas are required to be licensed. And they have certain educational standards. They have to have done so many before they are released from their mentorship or whatever. So there are a lot of standards in place for surveyors. So why get a survey? Acquiring a survey will give you a better idea of the property boundaries. And I love this paragraph. This may be easier to understand if you think of some very bad things that a survey can reveal, right? A manhole cover in the driveway, graves or headstones on the property, a storm sewer inlet. The house isn't actually sitting completely on the lot. I just recently had where a utility company put a power pole in their backyard, inside of their fence in a subdivision. Okay, well, unfortunately, it is in a utility easement. So as it turns out, there's absolutely nothing that homeowner can do about it. They now have a power pole in the middle of their backyard, inside of their fence, on their postage stamp residential lot. Well, I'll be darned. All these years in real estate, I didn't understand that a utility easement meant you could do that. Shoot. So just having lots of experiences that are teaching me lots of things. So the survey is way more important. We as agents tend to not pay any attention to it or very little. So I'm going to give you some ideas of what we could be doing better. So first off is to appreciate what goes into a survey, right? First, they have to do some research. They need to know what have been the property boundary lines in the past. Have they shifted between owners at all? What is the history they can find out? Then they need to go and do some field work, right? They stand outside with their equipment and they gather data. And the data they gather, we're going to talk about the types of survey, right? But it can include elevation. It can include more than just the boundary lines. And then they do some math. They do some computation. How big is it given these are the property lines? Here's about the types of property. So we just think of one kind, right? I just want to picture that lot. Just draw me a square, tell me nothing's changed, and I'm good to go. And there's so much more that's possible. And it's good to understand that our realtor use of the word survey is probably inadequate when you get outside of our industry and go into talk to a bank or go into talk to a surveyor or an architect. they're going to want more than just what we consider a survey. So knowing that a land survey is a topographic survey showing natural and man-made features on a parcel of land, right? As-built survey is the relationship between the boundary lines and the current improvements. Monumentation survey is permanent or temporary markers. That's when there's, like a stake in the ground with a flag. Floodplain, flood elevation certification, and then your mortgage survey. And that's what we're accustomed to, right? That's for the title policy and for the mortgage lender to see just boundary lines drawn on a piece of paper. All right, how to read a survey. We're not going to go into that much detail, but I thought we might take just a moment to understand some of what we're seeing. I want to show you the main thing that surprises me that I learned the hard way sometimes in real estate is the compass. You need to always look at the compass because it isn't always north at the top. They draw the home sitting on the lot and it can be the northeast is on the top. Oh, well, wait a minute. That's kind of messing with my mind. That's not what I expect. So understanding that the compass is an important thing for you to take note of. And then the legend, what are you looking at? And then the distance. And then also showing notes and exceptions. So on this particular pretend survey, this is a pretend survey, we can see up front the building line. Do you see in red there the broken line that says 30-foot building line? Okay, that is in the front of the home. It's actually in the back of the home, depending on where the street is, right? We're going to use anywhere street. So in this survey, it's the front of the home. I want to tell you a story about how important the building line is. So I had a home in Highland Village where they had a bigger dog. So they had moved their fence line from the back of their home to the front of their home to give them that side yard, which was additional yard for their pet. When they got ready to sell, they had to pay to move the fence line back because it was across the building line and had not been approved by the HOA. So that building line, it means a building line. It means you cannot build past that line. So we probably need to be pointing that out to our clients. On this particular survey, it shows a brick planter. It also shows the fence line, which is on and off of the property line. The fence is not always on the property line for this particular survey. Well, how big of a problem is that? I mean, at least we need to have knowledge, right? We need to know that our buyer is potentially buying a home that has a fence that they're going to have to do something about because it's not all on their property line. Okay. Also, you want to be looking for the surveyor name and date, and then any exceptions. So you're noticing they're making note that this property does lie in Zone X and does not live in the 100-year floodplain. That's little tiny writing that we probably should get more in the habit of reading, right? Just to be sure if there are any important exceptions. Okay, what does the contract actually say? What a great question. Great question. What does it actually say? So the title policy is going to be issued by a title company. You don't want to put the escrow officer's name there. That's not correct. And then this 6A, all of these things written here are exceptions. They're telling you what the policy will not cover. They're not telling you what it will cover. They're telling you what it will not cover. Look at that. Utility easements created by the deed or the plat. So if there's a utility easement in your survey drawing, we now know 100% for sure that does mean they can put a power pole right smack dab in that spot, or a manhole cover, or whatever else they want to. Oh, okay. And no, title insurance is not going to cover it. because it's an exception. They tell you right up front, they do not cover utility easements that show up on a plat. That just is a fact. And then looking at paragraph 6A8, right? In A, 8 is this standard printed exception will be amended or will not be amended to read shortages of area. So let's take 1 second to know what that means. So any discrepancy or conflict or shortage would normally be an exception to title coverage and is not covered. So if there is some sort of error on the survey and you did not choose this additional coverage, it's not covered. I guess you can sue the surveyor, good luck with that. But the truth is, it's not covered by the title policy unless you have purchased this additional insurance. Here's a quick look at how much it is, and it's not very expensive. And here's some examples of why you might want it. Examples of discrepancies, conflicts, or shortages that would not normally be covered. Things like their retaining wall comes over on your property, or their deck comes over on your property. This is a thing in some areas where people build a deck and it feels like it's on their lot, but it goes over just a little bit. Or the retaining wall for the driveway maybe comes over a little bit on your property. Surveyor errors. Let's not act like surveyors don't sometimes make mistakes, because of course they're just like everybody else. And then I mentioned here the fence line moved to the front of the home instead of the back, right? And then marking, right? I want to be sure we understand that 6C number 1 says seller shall furnish to buyer. It does not say seller's going to go see if they've got it in their attic. If they've got it in their attic, they're happy to give it to you. No, that's not what it says. It says seller shall. That means your seller has it and you can give it to the next buyer. Seller shall. If seller fails to deliver it, right, then there's a very strong case that seller is in default, because they should not have checked that box if they didn't have it to provide. Now, if it's unacceptable, assuming, then we can have other arguments. All right. And then a T47, the other trap is that both parties should sign the T47. If it's a husband and wife, then they both need to attest that there have been no changes, not just one party. You haven't done it thoroughly and correctly. You haven't lived up to the terms of the contract thoroughly and correctly unless both parties sign the T47. Okay, and then we've got objections. So doesn't make sense to me to write single family residential here unless that is somehow in question, right? If there's a question about it. Otherwise, what you want to write in here is whatever the buyer is planning to do or add or bring. So if they're going to put a pool, you can write pool of buyer's choice. Because if a utility easement runs right through the middle of the backyard, they might not could put a pool in, right? What about they want to store their RV on the property? What about they want to raise chickens? They want to run an in-home daycare, right? They want to have a pot-belly pig. What are they planning to do that they might need special permission for? This is where to put it, because this is the survey, the title commitment, all the information that's going to be provided to them about the property and the use for the property. So you want to be sure if they're doing something unusual, if they need a big old garage for their RV, or they need a special ham radio antenna, that they actually can do that on that piece of property. Okay. And then this is just about what happens if they do have title objections, right? It has to be written, sent to the seller, and you have to send it per notices, per that paragraph 21. You have to send it exactly that way. If you have an objection to something that you see on the survey or in the title commitment. Okay. And then this is just saying exactly what I just said. Who is responsible for providing the survey? Well, it's between the buyer and the seller, right? Option one can create some confusion, but the truth is the seller is responsible to deliver their existing survey. That's just the truth. And it's not going to go well for them if they can't do it. And then this is about the T47 and how there is a place for them to write any changes. If they put a shed with a concrete base, then that would be a change that they've made on the survey that they need to make note of. And then we'll see if the lender and title company will accept that survey. T47, I just want to be really clear with y'all. This is a Texas Department of Insurance form. It's not a TREC form. So any lies on the T47 are insurance fraud, right? This is not, how do we feel about it? Well, I didn't think that was a real change. Well, I don't know. I just filled it out. Nope, 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 nope. This is an insurance form regulated by the Texas Department of Insurance, and it better be treated with all due respect and honesty, right? So we want to tell our clients that. And I loved this question. They've agreed to purchase the home. The seller can't fund his existing survey. Yep. I feel like I've heard this a million times. Sellers should only agree to provide an existing survey if they have it readily available. And there's really a period at the end of that sentence. There's a whole lot more writing. But the truth is, if the seller doesn't have it, if you don't have it, then forget it. You're not going to be able to provide it. So move on to getting a new one. And I think we're going to begin to see people ask for a new one anyway. They're changing, FEMA is changing flood zones again. Utility easements are growing and changing as we have the natural gas pipeline issues that we're having in residential neighborhoods where the pipes are getting old. They're extending the utility easements so they can replace those pipes. There's just a lot going on with property boundary lines. And so I think we're going to begin to see more requests for a new survey. And then what date goes on the T47? So the seller can only swear that there have been no changes since the day they bought the home. So they can't, if they used an existing survey and now they're going to use that existing survey again, they can't really swear all the way back to the day the survey was done. They can only swear to the day they bought the home. Okay. And then this is just what's a plat versus a plot, right? A plat is a map of a land area. It's on some sort of scale so you can tell how it relates to other properties. And not all property is actually platted, right? Some of it's just a plot. It's just a piece of land and it's not platted to scale with use and everything clearly defined. So good to know the difference in the words. And then day you stop learning, you're definitely not an expert. I thought surveys, this was a perfect example of something I would have sworn I knew a lot about. And oh, look at that. I've got a lot of examples how I don't know so much about it. So, okay, anybody have any questions about, did you know all of that? Like, I really felt like I didn't know all of that and that I did not understand surveyors are trying to get paid every time a survey is used. That would be different. Utility easements are expanding, which I theoretically understand because houses are blowing up. They're having to replace gas lines. So what they're doing is they're laying them next to the old and then diverting them into the new, which just means they need a bigger utility easement and they're just taking. So all those things are good reasons to just get a new survey when you buy a home.
I have one question, Anne.
Okay.
So you said the date on the T47 should be the date that they've moved into the property, not the date of the survey, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, because I feel like in the past, I have had the client do that, and then at title has them fill out a whole nother affidavit with the date of the original survey on it. Have you run into that before, or are they just trying to do that to give themselves more protection, or what's going on there?
So my guess is they're just trying to get themselves more protection, because your seller cannot swear to anything before they moved in.
Mm-hmm. I
It's
agree.
actually just not possible for them to swear to that. So they can just swear that this survey is an accurate picture of the property on the day they bought it and ever since.
Okay.
Yeah. So when they ask people to swear for things before, they had, I mean, it's just an interesting question. Like,
Yeah,
no, I can't swear to that. Why would I
they,
swear to something I actually can't swear to?
they do it though. I've seen them do it, and I always scratch my head, but they have done that for sure.
Well, and
Very weird.
that's all I would, because I'm me, I would go back and do it in writing too. Just, hey, wanted to check in. I just want to be clear that you're asking them to swear to something that they absolutely cannot swear to.
Yeah, I'm
What's
gonna do
that
that
about?
next time.
Just put it in writing and let them answer,
Yeah, I'll do that next time for sure.
because they know just as the same as you do that seller cannot swear to that.
Mhm.
Nope.
Yeah,
Can't.
makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I can sign whatever you put in front of me because you're the title company. And the title company thinking that's defense for themselves. I mean, that's hilariously non-defensible.
I
Because
agree.
people sign whatever's put in front of them at the title company.
Yep. Agree. Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Yep.
Any other questions? Kay, what'd you think of that?
Well, I thought it was real good. I went to Freedom Title, and Matt Kern did the survey, so I knew some of this, but I have always, like Tori said, I've always put the date that's on the survey. And if it was before those buyers, then I always wondered, what do they know? Because they couldn't have known all of it. So you put it in there, the date that the buyers purchased the property.
That's right. Because that's the day they can begin
Yep.
to swear to what changes have happened. And they can just
Right.
swear that this was accurate on the day they bought it and going forward. And they don't really know what happened before that.
Well, and I think that it's, like you said earlier, it's important we get new surveys because there's so many changes and so much utility stuff and development going on.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start doing that more often now.
Yeah. Good. Good.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
So,
Okay. Great.
thank you.
Well, I just keep trying to find little nuggets that I think we may be overlooking so that we take a minute and talk about. And then hopefully people in the office will watch this and get just a little bit smarter, right? It's not earth-shattering news. It's just
Right.
little nuggets so that we get better and better and better at what we're doing. And particularly if surveyors are going to begin to be, I don't know, cantankerous or whatever the right word is about us using their surveys over and over again. I understand that. Same thing photographers are doing. But,
Right.
we just need to be ready to get new surveys because that may be kind of the reality.
I think so too.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thanks, you guys. I'll see you next week, same time.
Thank you, man.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Bye-bye.